it feels like an article from The Onion to me.
There are tons of reasons that you could tell your kid, if you're a parent, not to go play for Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin mentioning Gulf of America and possibly voting for Donald Trump is 997 on the list of why you would tell a child not to go to Ole Miss.
Chad, it's a new level of canceling that
outrage.
I can't figure out the common sense aspect of this, which we'll dive deep on this in just a moment. But so Lane Kiffin, according to a writer at The Ringer, Joel Anderson, wrote an article saying that Lane Kiffin, because he responded to Tricia Stone, P Stone 06 on social, following his visit with Paul Feinbaum, where he told Feinbaum he's not going to bring up Feinbaum for getting him fired at USC. This has been a long-going little rivalry.
Yeah. It was a very weird interview, by the way.
Awkward.
I went back and watched it. It was very awkward. He showed up late to it or something, and it got off to a weird start.
He references the Gulf, which is right behind him in view in this beautiful shot that Feinbaum has set up. And someone
SEC Media Days in Destin.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he references the Gulf. And Tricia Stone says that I just became the biggest Lane Kiffin fan because he did not call it the ocean. He has arrived. And Lane Train responds by saying Gulf of America and tags our president, Donald Trump. And that has the Ringer all up in arms, demanding an apology, going as far as to say that the apology from Kiffin needs to be to his players, specifically African Americans, that future recruits should pay attention to this. I don't know where to begin here because it feels like an article from The Onion to me, reading through this. Because he references Gulf of America and President Trump, all of a sudden Kiffin's now racist.
Hates black players, apparently.
Is compared to, let's see, within the first paragraph, Joe Paterno's mentioned. And also, he's referenced in regard to the history of Mississippi and the racial issues for the state. What?
There's so many references.
Why is this the automatic leap for some? It makes no sense here, based on this post. I mean, it wasn't Joey Freshwater that the Ringer's demanding the apology. It's him referencing Gulf of America. Ridiculous.
Well, it's also fascinating that some of the people referenced in this story by Joel Anderson are statements by people like Tommy Tuberville, who is a Republican. And he said even Tommy Tuberville wanted all of the Confederate iconography removed from Ole Miss football because when he was the Ole Miss head coach, he said, it is my job to win football games, and this is hurting me with black players. That when I go and recruit young black athletes, I'm getting negatively recruited against because of the Confederate flags on the logo, in the crowd, everything else. So Joel Anderson, even Tommy Tuberville had this stance against Ole Miss. Then he goes on to say Lou Holtz, two guys that we've had on the show a lot in the past. Lou Holtz is a huge Donald Trump supporter. Even Lou Holtz, when he was the coach of South Carolina, said take down the Confederate flag from Columbia at the state capitol because it's hurting me with recruiting. Steve Spurrier finally got it done, and that Confederate flag came down in 2015 when South Carolina won a lot more than they did under Lou Holtz, and because of a horrific crime at a church in Charleston, South Carolina, that Confederate flag came down. Look, there are tons of reasons that you could tell your kid, if you're a parent, not to go play for Lane Kiffin. All right? There's numerous reasons to say why you shouldn't play for Lane Kiffin. There are a bunch of reasons if you are a parent of a young black kid that's not from Mississippi, why you would tell your kid, hey, maybe don't go to Mississippi to play college football. Ole Miss and Mississippi State have been negatively recruited against with black athletes outside of that state for years. It is the poorest state in the country, and it has the worst history when it comes to segregation, to an income gap, to everything else. Joel Anderson, fine, points that out in this story. There are plenty of reasons. for someone to tell their kid not to go to Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin mentioning Gulf of America and possibly voting for Donald Trump is 997 on the list of why you would tell a child not to go to Ole Miss. Do you think most of the season ticket holders at Ole Miss voted for Kamala Harris or voted for Donald Trump? I mean, come on. What world and reality are we living in when I see a story like this? This is a non-story and not a reason to tell someone not to go to Ole Miss. And Hutton, then I read this quote from the story.
Yes.
From Joel Anderson. I said, aha, there's a tie-in to Caitlin Clark in this whole thing.
Okay.
Here is the post from Joel Anderson. Kiffin's post wasn't an explicit endorsement of Trump or all of his policies, but Trump supporters certainly seem to take it that way, which is why I'm uncomfortable thinking of it as such. There you have it. He doesn't hate Lane Kiffin. He doesn't even hate the idea of Gulf of America, probably. What he hates is that Trump supporters had the audacity to like Lane Kiffin and his post about Gulf of America and that he mentioned Donald Trump. Hud, it sounds an awful lot about what I've been saying about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. WNBA players don't hate Caitlin Clark. They hate that Caitlin Clark is supported by Trump supporters. And they hate Trump and they hate Trump supporters. So now in turn they hate Caitlin Clark. Vis-a-vis Lane Kiffin, Joel Anderson, story repeats itself.
Well,
rinse and repeat once again.
So I guess Nick Sirianni is racist because he attended the White House with Donald Trump.
People in Philadelphia certainly think so. They got angry emails, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers have been getting emails from season ticket holders about Mason Rudolph and others attending a Trump rally.
I just haven't seen the Ringer, put this in a column.
No.
Same goes for any of Nick Saban with the commencement speech at Alabama when Trump showed up. He introduced him. Is Nick Saban racist now? Like, does he owe his team an apology?
No.
His former teammates, or his former players? Like, the whole thing it's nonsensical. It's laughable. It's like, you know where I come from on like the stupidity of this. I hate even mentioning and publicizing, the column because I don't want to give it attention because it deserves discussion, but it's not something I want to promote or prop up because it's lazy. It's over a Gulf of America at the real Donald Trump social account. Now, this is not the only reference. We have Chris Williamson, who's a sportscaster. I believe he does some work for CBS. Quote, at what point do sensible black athletes' families decide enough is enough and make these coaches pay for aligning themselves with Trump and refuse to play with them? I mean, this is where we're at. It's not happening.
By the way, Ole Miss is really good. They're going to be really good again. They got a lot of talent. So apparently that's not what athletes are thinking.
It's exactly. It's not happening. And, Kiffin resonates with the players more than many coaches right now across college
here's something
football.
else that I hate that's just more and more commonplace is someone trying to take their worldview and put it on someone else.
Well, but demanding.
So that's what Joel Anderson is doing here.
Well,
and I hate assumptions.
Well, not only is he's doing that on Kiffin and his personal worldview, he's also jumping to the conclusion and speaking on behalf of the black athletes.
That's my point.
Demanding an apology on behalf of their coach when it's
who knows how many of those black athletes voted for Trump?
But even
that's my problem with it. Like someone walks into a room,
but it doesn't matter because they're playing for Kiffin
and starts right. But
it doesn't matter who they voted for. You see what I'm saying?
Also,
they're playing for the coach that this guy's saying demands an apology.
Bigger issue here. Joel Anderson, a black man who writes for the Ringer, and is clearly very liberal based on this article and what he thinks about Donald Trump and everything else. Fine, I have no issues. Any of these things, right? But to make the assumption that because someone shares your skin color or your race, that they should think and feel exactly like you, and they should either demand an apology, transfer out, or cross Ole Miss off the list of possible places to go. Because Lane Kiffin supports Donald Trump, maybe, because he mentioned Gulf of America, is asinine. And I'm telling you, this to me is kind of racist. To assume one race all feels the same way about a president or a presidential candidate is really minimizing a race And that's what Joel Anderson is unintentionally doing here, to go into a situation and just, I don't know how many black players for Ole Miss, maybe they support Donald Trump. Maybe they're fine with this. Maybe they like to joke about Gulf of America versus Gulf of America. Mexico. I don't know, Hutton.
But it doesn't.
And I don't pretend to know.
But the thing is, no matter where they stand on that, they're choosing to play for Lane Kiffin. They chose to play for Lane. So, I mean, again, like it's the jump to this.
By the way, none of those reasons were for who he voted for.
Right.
Of why they're playing for Lane Kiffin.
Right. But it doesn't, like, the last time we said Kiffin was involved in something was the lawsuit from that didn't go anywhere. The player, the ex-player now, the offensive lineman, I believe, who was coming in.
He was told basically to DBAP.
He was told to DBAP
or
by
GTFO.
Kiffin. He recorded him. The player recorded Kiffin. That audio was released. And, you know, he called him a pussy, more or less.
In many different ways.
And, and that, I mean, think about the divide on how people viewed that versus, you know, like the real world of just considering where we were and coaches and how they addressed us. And we're thinking to ourselves, this is sports. This has nothing to do with race. This is just sports. This is one of the players who wasn't telling the coach what he was doing or where he's been. And all of a sudden he wants to tap out or he wants back in. Come on. But he stayed on scholarship. You know, like, for whatever reason, Kiffin has the target on him. He enjoys it. He plays into it. But in this case, I mean, what's he to do on this, other than just sit back and laugh?
Well, and I just, going back to the original point, like, just with anybody, just don't make assumptions. I mean, that one person is one way or another, or thinks one way or another. I get irritated if somebody just walks into a room and starts espousing their, like, really over-the-top political leanings, one way or the other, around me or to me, having not met me, and assuming that I'm one way or the other. Like, it's almost insulting. I think either way. Like, if someone came in and said, can you believe that racist Trump and what he's... And I'm just... Who knows who everybody in the room voted for, what they think, anything else, and vice versa. I mean, can you believe Kamala Harris is the worst candidate in history and how dumb this broad is and not a... Don't assume that someone there isn't a Kamala Harris supporter or voted for... Like, let's not just make an assumption because of someone's skin color or where they're from, what political leaning they have in every argument we make. I feel Joel Anderson is doing a disservice to so many people by writing a blanket opinion column about what he believes black athletes on Ole Miss's football team should do in response to Lane Kiffin mentioning Gulf of America.
Well, not even doing that. In response to Lane Kiffin posting something that the other party supporters loved. That's really what he's saying. He's like, I don't really know if he's a supporter, but I'm going to take it as he is because of the response. You know, like, so now you must apologize to your recruits because the other party here is aligned with what you just said. I mean, this dude could write a column an hour nitpicking this on anybody. Like, is the next column like, recruits need to think twice about going to an SEC program because it's in the South.
Yeah, it's a red state.
Yeah,
you shouldn't be. I mean, that's where, and that's been written before too, and that's where everything is headed. Is how on earth could all of these red states dominate athletics to this level? Why are all these athletes signing up to live in a place that would dare to vote a Republican in as president? How dare they? How dare they go and dominate every sport in this? And Ole Miss has been fighting this fight for so long.
I know.
Against their history, which everyone knows about, and the school's history. I mean, we know a lot of people from Ole Miss.
Yeah.
These are not racist people that we know from Ole Miss. They hate the stigma attached to Ole Miss. They don't want it. Trust us. They don't want it around anymore, just like anyone else wouldn't. And when you see something like this, I don't know, Hutton. It's disappointing.
It's baffling.
It's just disappointing that we're still kind of here in this place and that someone's actually going to read that and think to themselves, there should be repercussions for this, and he should lose his entire team.
Then he adds Barstool and mentions OutKick as propping him up in the public eye.
How pissed off is Dave Portnoy that OutKick was mentioned with his company?
With Dave.
I just read that and I'm thinking, man, Portnoy is
Gestures
pissed
Act.
that OutKick was mentioned in the same sentence.
The Gestures Act
as Barstool
has made him a favorite of the Barstool Sports and OutKick universe. and has managed to keep him and his teams in the public eye.
Yeah. So the Barstool and OutKick audience likes fun. Got it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Joel.
Yeah, they're not going to ask for apologies over how someone on social responded to a post that the coach made.
I'm also laughing because I like a lot of the Ringer content, and someone that's on a website is complaining that the audience of another website likes Lane Kiffin because of his jester-like qualities and frat boy image, and that he likes to have fun and typically has hot girls around him.
He owes an explanation for these recent comments.
And this is not a knock at the Ringer. This is a site that ranks Steven Seagal movies in the rewatchables. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, so Barstool and OutKick audience likes Lane Kiffin because he's a jester and jokes around and has fun. Boy, I want to apologize to Joel that we have an audience that likes to have fun in sports. I mean, come on.
I mean, this is like you would think there was like some deep investigation on some background that Kiffin's been doing,
It's so stupid. Like, there are so many reasons you could negatively recruit against Lane Kiffin if you wanted to, or Ole Miss.
I mean,
this is not one of them.
Yeah.
And this is not a reason anyone who signed up to play for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss would ever go to their coach and say, Coach, we demand an apology to the team for posting this and saying this on the Paul Feinbaum show.
You need to call the players previous to your regime, previous to your tenure as head coach, and apologize to them as well. Please call DK Metcalf and apologize.
Is that
next? Give a call to all those that came before you.
We'll have to ask Clay
for
in
your
our next
comment
visit
about the
with
Gulf
him,
of America,
because he covered this story heavily when it happened. The writer Joel Anderson references racial problems at Missouri in 2015.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure that's the fake poop swastika.
Oh,
I think that was the same year.
Michael Sam, is that Michael
stuff
Sam?
was going on 2015. And he referenced that. I'm thinking, Clay, we got to ask Clay about that because he covered that story. But he mentions it. I'm like, oh, the one that was fake?
The fake one.
He's like, I've been in the fire.
That was fake. It was fake, but it was associated, and it was tagged along with what could be perceived as racism. So therefore, it counts according to this chat.
Wild.
It's not whether you represent. It's about if other representatives tag along with you.
Well, wild that he is referencing something that was proven to not be true.
Well, I mean,
and just continue to treat it like it's
true. Well, he's referencing Kiffin. He doesn't know if it's true or not that he's a Trump supporter. He admits that.
Yeah.
He's doing the same thing.
I read it.
Oh, I know. But I'm saying, like, he's doing the same thing.
There's the fact, though, that, Trump supporters liked it. That's enough for me.
We don't know this, but the Ole Miss coach owes an explanation for his reason.
Yeah. And Hutton, the fact that Trump supporters and an OutKick audience likes it, that's enough for me that he owes an apology.
It's interesting. Kiffin was so willing to play this kind of cutesy social media game with a polarizing political figure like Trump. Oh, man. Lane Train.
I'm scanning the article again. I think did they take out the Missouri reference in the last 30 minutes since I read it before?
Because it was because
it's false?
They were told that it was fake. I'm looking through it now for you.
I can't see any reference in Missouri, and I swear I just read it, that he was at Missouri in 2015.
It's down there. I see it.
Okay, it's there still?
Yeah. Over the years, black players who have pursued activism have sometimes produced major results.
Good eye by you, Hutton.
I covered a Missouri football team
in
2015 when they joined a school protest against racist incidents on campus and ultimately pushed the school's president to resign. Decades of lobbying and legal maneuvering ultimately led to groundbreaking reforms in college sports, including the approval of name, image, and likeness rights. And then he goes, look, by no means am I asserting that Lane Kiffin's mildly trolley post of the Gulf of America constitutes a civil rights offense. But he's got all of this. If you're not saying that, what are you saying? Gulf of America.
I'm reading his article from 2015 about the incidents at Missouri, and I'm still looking for the infamous poop swastika reference, but I'm pretty sure that's when it happened.
Owes a clarification of his message to his players and any others who might want to play for him someday. No. It doesn't owe an apology or an explanation to you. I mean, you know what I mean?
No.
I mean, just...
No.
Whatever. Poop swastika is really funny.
Yeah.
Clay will join us Wednesday.
We'll ask him about it. It was a string of incidents. That was one of them I just read. That he wrote for BuzzFeed in 2015.
Okay.
in that. He covered that story.
Coming up, Amber Harding has been
hellscape of an
covering
issue.
the story up in Minnesota and doing a great job with it, exclusive with OutKick, on the road, hitting the road to cover this exclusively. And the transgender athlete who is pitching for a girls' high school softball team just won the state title. Got an update on that, and Amber has the very latest next.